Hello, my name is Philip Bloom and I'm going to give you this short tutorial on how to do time-lapse on the 5D and 7D using stills mode, and this is applicable to most digital SLRs in fact. So what I've done is I've got my compact flash card plugged into my Lexar Firewire reader, and I'm going to drag in the folder with the stills on. And that's going to take 3 minutes, but we will speed it up now. So what I'm going to do now is open up QuickTime, go to File, Open Image Sequence, and do is click on the folder that I created where the imported pictures are, and let's have a look. Here's our first one. Let's check it all there. All looks good. Great. I'm going to click on Open. And this is where we can set our frame rate for our video. We can either have it as anything from 10 seconds per frame to 5 seconds per frame through to 60 frames per second. I'm going to do it at 24 frames per second, which is the nice film rate of film motion. So click on OK, and it will simply create a time-lapse video sequence using all of those still photos that I took. And here we go. And let's just make the image a bit smaller so we can see. In fact, it's a huge image because it's shot in the 5D. So let's go to fit to screen. Here we go, and here's the image. And we can see our time lapse. So let's see where we actually started, because there's a bit of movement there at the beginning. Put an in point there. No. Okay, so we'll put our out point in. There we go. And what we do is we go to Edit, Trim Selection. So we now have our 20-second time-lapse sequence. So what we do is we go to File, Export, San Francisco time-lapse. Go to QuickTime Movie. Go to Options. And we've got it on ProRes LT, which is what I want in Final Cut 7, 24 frames a second, which is what I want, so that's great. And size, at the moment it's cropping it to 1920 by 1080, which is a standard 5D video size, but actually what I want to do is actually have it much bigger and have it as the current. And at the moment it's displaying it at 1602 by 10067, that's because I have scaled it down. So what I need to do is click on Cancel. And then I'm going to go to File, View, Actual Size, then go to File, Export, San Francisco Time Lapse, go to QuickTime Movie, Options, and now if we click on Size and Current, we'll see that it's massive. And that's what I want, because the reason I want it to be really huge is I want to do a nice digital zoom on it, so I'm going to have a lot to play with. It's going to make it harder for me to use on the laptop and hard to render, but it is going to give me a lot more flexibility. So I'm going to click on OK, click on Save, and off it will go. Now, if you're not worried about doing any digital zooms, or you don't want to deal with such a huge 5K image, you can simply go to File, Export, and we'll call it San Francisco time-lapse 1080p. Go to Options, and we've already got the size there. Just in case we don't, just select Full HD 1920 by 1080 HD, click on OK, and that's it. OK, and save. And it will simply create a 1080p version, so you don't have to deal with such a huge image if you don't need to do any digital manipulation, as in zooming or panning within Final Cut Pro. So this will give you a simple, static, 1080 Full HD version of this time lapse. Okay, so now I'm going to do is show you how you can do digital zooms and pans within Final Cut Pro with such a huge 5K image. because if we right click the actual San Francisco time-lapse file and go to format, we can see the actual size of it is 5616 by 3744. That's 5K image, so that's huge. Now this gives us loads to play with, because if we go on to, if we double click on the timeline and go into motion, and if we actually change the size so we can see the whole image, we're looking at 36% to actually scale the image down so it actually fits into our 1080 Full HD size screen. Now obviously if we just make it slightly smaller, you'll see why it's not even less than that, because it's a 4:3 image, and what we want to do is turn it into a 16:9 image. So we are going to lose some information at the top and bottom, but that's not a problem because we have a lot to play with, and we can simply just change the center point and just scroll up a little bit if we want to see more of the bottom that we're losing, or we can scroll down if we want to see more sky. So we'll just go back to 0 on our center, and what I'm going to do is have a simple digital zoom. So I'm going to start off by clicking a marker for scale, a marker for center. So what I'm actually going to do is change the scale back to, I would say, 100%. So we've zoomed right in, and I put a marker for center. So I'm going to change that to, I think, let's see, a little bit more of the skyline. There we go. I'm going to change that to 0. A bit more centered. Actually, no, I think I prefer it back the other way. That's great. So that's going to be my starting point, and my end point is going to be the end of the shot here. So I'm going to mark my scale, my center point, in case I want to tweak the positioning, and I'm going to drop it down to full frame. And as you can see, it's obviously way off, so what we're going to do is we're going to click on center. We've already marked the center point. We're going to scroll it and move it so it's central in the image. Great. So now if we click on the timeline, we can see what happens is we're slowly... The problem is we're getting the sort of spinning kaleidoscope wheel of death a lot, because this is simply a MacBook Pro and I am trying to do some image manipulation of that 5K image, and it's really not liking it because it's a massive, massive file. That's not a problem, because once it's rendered, it will play fine. At the moment it won't play, but we can see that we are doing a digital zoom out. But because we have such a huge 5K image, if you look at the early stuff, we are not losing any resolution. We have a huge amount of resolution to play with. So what I'm going to do is simply render it off, and this will create a really nice digital pull-out time-lapse. And of course you don't have to do any pullouts, and it'll probably work nice if you do something a little bit more subtle. This is quite an extreme pullout that I'm doing to show you some difference that you can get in the size from the smallest to full frame. But you can also do digital pans, left and right, and all sorts of things. So here are the two time lapses which I've created. First off is the static one, the one that I rendered down in QuickTime Pro to Full HD, and the second one is the digital pullout.